Welcome to the pre-conference workshop of the National Conference on Open and Distance E-Learning 2022 with the theme Reimagining Education Futures. The title of the workshop is Designing for Flexibility, Agility, and Sustainability, Integrating Technology to the Face-to-Face Classroom Teaching and Learning. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Margaret Suarez, your moderator for today, and I am here with Ayel Pascual, the rapporteur assigned for this session. Please allow me to announce a few ground rules before we begin. Please use your full names in the Zoom so we can address you properly during our session. When not speaking, please make sure your microphone is turned off. As for our speaker, you will have 25 minutes to discuss your topic. The remaining minutes shall be devoted to explain the workshop or learning activity and for the open forum. For the audiences, please write down your questions and ask them during the open forum. And you can also type in your questions in the chat room, which we will answer after the presentation. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce our speaker, Dr. Melinda de la Peña Bandalaria, the Chancellor of the University of the Philippines Open University, the ICDE Ambassador for OER, and a member of the ICD OER Advocacy Committee. Please, let's give Chancellor Bandalaria a warm virtual welcome. Ma'am?
Yes, thank you very much, Meg. And magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Good afternoon and welcome to the first activity for the National Conference on Open and Distance E-Learning. Salamat, Meg, sa introduction, and I hope that all our colleagues are here now, all our those who registered for the pre-conference workshop are all here with us now, no? So we can start our session. Siguro kanina while Meg was giving us some guidelines on how the session will proceed, sabi niya, ano nga yung sabi mo, Meg? You will be given
25 minutes.
25 minutes ba?
Take your time, ma'am.
Present. Oo. Sabi ko parang hindi ko yata kaya yung 25 minutes. But I also want this session, kaya we tried to limit the number of participants. Siguro kung mapansin niyo, out of 300 plus or a little less than 400 who registered for the conference, we only registered 30. Tama, no, Shai? 30 for this pre-con because we also want this to be interactive, participative, etc. So as I continue to present yung ating pag-uusapan ngayong hapon, I hope that you will also join the discussion, ask questions, or even have your inputs to the discussion. So I will now share. Siguro ang ano dito, kindly, okay, so nandito na lahat. You are here because later, Shai will also be checking who are here with us this morning, because this is part, this webinar session is part of the certification requirement for this workshop. So allow me to share my presentation. Okay, so as introduced or as mentioned by Meg, the title of our pre-con workshop number 1, take note that there is still workshop number 2, and I think some of you are also in that workshop, ano? So it is designing for flexibility, agility, and sustainability, integrating technology to the face-to-face teaching and learning. So actually, frankly speaking, when I first planned for this pre-conference workshop, the context was still different. So as developments happened with regard to how we will proceed, especially at the higher education level, I tried to make some tweakings here and there so that we can have a more relevant discussion and a more relevant output for this pre-conference workshop. Okay, so I think this is something that is familiar to many of you, or if not to all of you, this is a very recent thing, and in fact, ito yung something new for me, something that I also did not expect that will happen, that we will all be required. Well, not us, because the exception was made for UP Open University when it comes to this instruction coming from the Commission on Higher Education, that in-person classes are required among higher or in higher education institutions starting second semester, and that will be in this school year. So yung mga napag-usapan natin, in fact, there were discussions even before saying that there is no way that we will go back to the pre-pandemic way of teaching and learning. Lagi nating sinasabi yon, hindi na tayo babalik dun sa kung paano tayo nagtuturo before the COVID-19 pandemic. And in fact, we were saying that we have to make the most out of the investments and out of the efforts that we exerted when we did remote teaching and learning from March 2020 up to the current time. Kasi hanggang ngayon naman, hindi pa naman talaga full face-to-face yung ginagawa natin for many of our courses. So this is the context. This is the context of our discussion this afternoon. And together, we will try to really design how should higher education institution conduct our classes in the post-COVID-19 pandemic era, so that we can maximize all our investments, efforts exerted during the COVID-19 pandemic, and also ensure that it will be a more effective and more efficient teaching and learning that we will do in the post-COVID-19 era. Okay? So ito yung sinasabi kong memorandum, CHED Memorandum Order 16 Series of 2022 states that unless there is an approval from CHED, a higher education institution cannot offer its recognized degree programs in full distance learning delivery, including fully online modality. Okay. So alam naman natin na if you want to offer your programs in the distance education mode, then you have to apply for accreditation, etc. And that is as per RA 10650 or the Open Distance Learning Act. So for HEIs that will opt to deliver their degree programs in hybrid learning modality. So kung titingnan natin, meron ditong sinabi na pwede kayong pwede naman na hindi full face to face. Yung mga nakasubaybay sa inyo, those who were able to listen to the budget hearings conducted during the last few weeks or so, ang sinasabi is 75%, and that was as per yung CHED Memorandum Order nung 27 yata, matagal na, 2012 pa yata yon. So ngayon, this CHED Memorandum Order is saying that 50% na lang ang kailangan yung total contact time on on-site learning experiences. Okay? So the rest of the contact hours, so 50% ay on-site learning experiences, the rest of the contact hours may be delivered through other flexible learning strategies. So ito na yung ito na yung compromise na hindi na talaga tayo babalik doon sa the way we've been teaching and learning during the time of during the pre-COVID pandemic, So other flexible learning strategies such as self-paced, printed or online learning modules, synchronous or asynchronous learning sessions, and remote guided peer learning approaches. So now, given this memorandum order from CHED, how can we maximize the 50% on-site learning experiences and the 50% allowed for flexible, independent learning activities that we can have in our courses so that we can still achieve the agility and the flexibility that we want to have in our education ecosystem. We have to take note na, okay, sabi nga nila, we have to learn to live with the pandemic, with the COVID-19 virus, no? Kailangan pa rin na mag-iingat tayo, parang sinasabi nila, the virus is still here, and we have to learn to live with it. But in addition to that, lalo tayo sa Pilipinas, we often experience many calamities, disasters, etc. na more often than not, it disrupts or they disrupt our learning or the learning of our students, hindi makapasok sa klase, etc., etc. So our goal really is to be flexible, to be agile. We can immediately shift to another mode of learning, of teaching and learning, if our students or we cannot go to school to have our classes in the school. So be agile, responding immediately, and be flexible. We can have different modalities as the need arises, and still attain the quality of learning, the quality of education that we want to give to our students. So ang ano rin dito, we are saying, based on our construct of sustainability in education, we also say that by being flexible, by being agile, by being relevant and offering quality education to our various learners, various types of learners, we can also achieve sustainability in our education ecosystem. So yun yung ating construct, ano? That's why we will try to be agile and flexible using the different information and communication technologies, no? That are relevant, that are appropriate to the learning outcomes, and be able to achieve that sustainability in our education ecosystem. Okay, so in this workshop, we are hoping that we can walk you through, our teacher participants, in designing a technology-enabled learning that is contextualized in a face-to-face setting. Meaning to say that it is still within that shared memorandum order, saying that or describing it as the hybrid learning modality. Okay, so yun yung ano natin. So let us try to see or to walk through in the design of our courses, which we can describe as technology-enabled, technology-enhanced, but still within the context of the hybrid learning modality described in the CHED memorandum order. So there will be lecture discussion, first on articulating the hybrid learning modality, and of course, the workshop component, which is designing a course in the hybrid learning modality. Okay? So, ano nga bang ibig sabihin? Kasi when we talk of hybrid learning, if you search the literature, and you can probably try doing it now, maraming definition. There will be various definitions of what hybrid learning is all about. But I think there are some agreements on what exactly is hybrid learning, especially in the context of the CHED memorandum order. So it takes the best of both worlds, that is the face-to-face and online learning. Technology is there to facilitate the different types of learning, whether it's an in-person learning or independent learning. Class time can be shortened and or used for activities that better lend themselves to face-to-face interaction, yung sa, especially when we assign independent learning activities. It can support a more diverse range of learners. And if I may add, I always say that by introducing or integrating technology into our course design, into the way we will deliver the instructional content, we can also cater to the needs of the more diverse range of learners, even those who are physically challenged. And that is by integrating some basic features of the universal design for learning. So, yon, we can be more inclusive, our courses can be more accessible, and at the same time, we are offering flexibility not only to us, teachers, but also more specifically to our learners. There are more options for learning, and we can have that elbow room to integrate many activities, especially those which are are more real life situation and which can lead to deeper learning. Kasi our students are not on campus, they are not in the classroom, and therefore we can design different activities that can really give them the application, the opportunity to apply the different concepts that we are discussing in the classroom, and which can lead into deeper learning. So ito pa, definitions pa rin ng hybrid learning, combination of in-class and online learning, but each modality should complement the other. Hindi yung lagi nating sinasabi na, gusto kong mag-online ngayon. So, sige, bukas class online na tayo. It's not like that. We really have to design such that the in-class and online learning, or in-person learning and online learning, will really complement each other and be part of a single structure. They will support each other to enable our students to achieve the learning outcomes. So although the terms hybrid learning and blended learning are used interchangeably, they are different. So kung marinig natin hybrid learning, blended learning, minsan ginagamit interchangeably. Mamaya may bagong concept pa napapasok, yung flip learning or flip classroom. We can somehow differentiate one from the other. So let's try to see the main difference between hybrid and blended. So ito sinabi nitong reference na to, primarily on the proportion of face-to-face and online sessions and or instructional material in a given course. So sabi dito, in a hybrid learning format, the two modes are evenly split. So ito yung konteksto noong CHED memorandum order. Two modes, the in-person and the online, are evenly split. So 50% contact learning experiences and 50% ay pwedeng independent learning. While in the blended learning, it is 25-75 favoring online mode of instruction. So ganyan niya dinifferentiate. Although for me, it is not so much on the percentage. Based on my own articulation of blended learning, it doesn't have to be this fix of 25 and 75. But you can design it in such a way that whichever will be more appropriate for in-person, etc. And there are also different models for blended learning. Okay? So blended learning uses online learning resources to supplement face-to-face instruction, while hybrid learning uses online resources to replace portions of students' instruction that would otherwise be delivered face-to-face. So halimbawa, yung mga lecture, sa halip na mag-lecture ang teacher during face-to-face meetings, the face-to-face meetings can be used for other learning activities. Sabi nga, if I may make an example. So I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, we had a meeting. We had a meeting with some colleagues from the Asian Association of Open Universities and the developer of Moodle. That's Martin Dugiamas. And what he and the other one is the founder of Moodle Moot Japan. So what Martin Dugiamas wants to do is for us to conduct a research that would significantly improve the learning management system, which is Moodle. As you all know, we UPOU is using Moodle for so many years already, and of course there are also many other universities who are using this learning management system for their online teaching and learning. So when we were talking about what exactly is it that we found not so good in Moodle. So I started by saying, well, the big blue button is something that we really cannot use at UPOU. Somehow there are some technical issues. We cannot communicate with so many students, etc., etc. So if we want to do synchronous online session, we opt for Zoom. And then Martin Dugiamas said, but why exactly do you want to do synchronous session? Is it to do lecture? Somehow it does not align with good pedagogy, because you are wasting an opportunity for you to do other learning activities with your students with you. I mean, in a synchronous session, instead of just lecturing. So that is also something that we have to consider when we design courses in the hybrid learning mode, that is replacing some portions of students' instruction that would otherwise be delivered in a face-to-face session. But there are challenges. So ngayon pa lang, as we prepare, kasi ang sabi do sa by the second semester dapat ganito na yung mode of teaching and learning natin sa mga HEIs dito sa Philippines. But the hardest part is figuring out how to integrate the two experiences. Paano nga ba natin i-design such that hindi hiwalay, they will complement each other, and they will support, that the two modalities will support each other, and amplify, ito yung word na ginamit, amplify each other, so that we can really facilitate deep learning and the achievement of learning outcomes. So ang sinabi dito, don't simply take the traditional model and try to fit it into the online learning framework. Parang sinabi ko kanina na, okay, so this is, I used to teach this course in a face-to-face mode, ito online, ito hindi ganon. So we really have to design even the learning activities that are more aligned with the modality wherein we will conduct those learning activities. So in a hybrid learning mode, as also emphasized in the CHED Memorandum Order, 50% lang. We will only be meeting our students. If we really want to do it that way, we will only be meeting our students 50% of the class time. So halimbawa, kung ang semester ninyo ay sa OU kasi it's 48 hours in a semester per class, tapos kung 50% lang, 24 hours mo lang imimit yung klase mo. So we have to recognize that class time will be limited in a face-to-face setting. Yun lang, kung talagang gusto natin na ma-maximize itong mga modalities na to, kailangan ma-maximize natin yung class time wherein we will be with our students. And whenever something is limited, it becomes more precious. Therefore, we need to design the in-person learning so as to maximize that meeting, that opportunity for the teacher and the students to meet. So hindi natin gagamitin yon sa mga lectures. Okay. So the sessions that are designated for online work in a hybrid class are not merely for reviewing material, they are intentionally much more active. So class time needs to be used more purposefully. Kailangan alam talaga natin ano yung mga activities. So dito, pumapasok sa, baka pwedeng katulad, we can design our courses such that we can have it like a flipped classroom. Totoo yun. Pwede rin gano'n, papasok yun sa isip natin. In fact, when I also first read that memorandum order, my first reaction was, okay, so we design it like a flipped classroom, where the students review video lectures, other resources online, and then come to class ready to go further with what they covered. But it may not be a completely apt comparison kasi we can do more activities. We can have more activities with that 50% of the time na hindi lang, not just reviewing video lectures and other resources. In fact, we can integrate more activities. We can integrate more activities into that independent component of the course, and which may not be exactly like a flipped classroom. Although those who are articulating the flipped classroom, sometimes they are also saying na pwede rin naman, and it's not just limited, the independent learning is not just limited to reviewing video lectures and other resources. So it really depends on how we're going to implement this. We can have some tweakings here and there, and it will be us, the teachers, who will make a decision how we are going to maximize those two learning modalities. So kung titingnan natin, this is a comparison between hybrid and the traditional learning. So it's just an overview and saying na instructor role in a traditional learning, this is the role of the teacher. tayo, authority, we give quizzes, etc., etc. But in hybrid learning, as we always say, we became the guide on the side instead of the sage on the stage. I always say that in a learning like this, especially in a technology enhanced, wherein there are many resources available online, we the teachers will be the architects of learning. Kasi tayo yung magdi-design tayo ang magdi-design at tayo ang mag-iisip what materials will be more appropriate for the learning of our students. So ito yung mga students role, attend classes, do homework, take tests, etc., etc. But in a hybrid learning mode, we give more responsibility for learning to our students, and they are required, or they will be required, to do individual or collaborative work, which I can say is more empowering. If we are talking of learner agency, student agency, then we empower our students to really exercise their to exercise their talents, use their talents, use what they have learned, so that they can do more collaborative work, especially those which will enable them to complete your course requirements. The learning environment, class lectures, but in a hybrid learning mode, as I mentioned earlier, partially online, partially face-to-face. So it means to say that the students are not always in the classroom. Approach that teacher-centered, passive, individual. For the hybrid learning, we are saying that it is a more learner-centered approach. And even when we design our courses, it's more of taking into consideration the context of our learners. So in class time, we have online learning activities. Even, of course, there are in-person activities which should be designed carefully. And of course, the out-of-class time, we have this watching videos, searching for materials, collaborative writing assignments, etc., etc. So this is just an overview of the differences between traditional learning and hybrid learning. Now, at this point, you may also want to make some reflections. Paano ko nga ba dinesign? Paano ko nga ba dinesign ang aking kurso? At what changes can I make so that I will be leaning more towards hybrid learning modality. Okay? It will not be that difficult given our experience when we were doing the remote teaching and learning during the past 2 years. So, i-evaluate na lang natin yan Evaluate na lang natin, titingnan natin how else can we improve the design of our courses. Okay? So how to design a hybrid learning course? So ito na yung mga steps na natin, nasusundin natin in the workshop. So, questions to ask. What do you want your students to be able to do? Know or value as a result of taking your class? In short, these are your learning outcomes. It's there already. Pagka nandiyan na yung course syllabus natin, ito rin lagi nating sinasabi, even when we were doing webinars in 2020, we started doing webinars March 2020 to help our colleagues in the education sector to rapidly shift to remote teaching and learning. And I always say, start where you are, start with what you have. So review your learning outcomes and take it from there. Kasi yun yung mag-guide sa atin, yun yung compass natin in designing our course. So that's the first question to ask. What do you want your students to be able to do, know or value as a result of taking your class? The next question is, what learning activities? So kung makikita ninyo, this is like a backward design process. You start with the learning outcomes and then you now develop the learning activities that will provide your students with opportunities to develop or demonstrate those learning outcomes. So ano ba yung mga activities? Ano yung assessment na pwede kong ibigay that will help them? And then, which of these learning activities or assessments would best lend themselves to an online format. So alin yung pwedeng gawin online at alin ang pwedeng gawin ng face-to-face. At ano yung combination ng online and in-class activities that would best address teaching and learning objectives. Ano yung magsimbawa, may pinagawa kayong online activity, pwedeng isupport yun ng in-class activities para mas ma-validate ang learning at mas magkaroon ng application ng concept with the teacher there together with the student, mas supervise noong teacher. So kung if you will recall, if you will reflect further on this, medyo may katulad siya talaga doon sa flip learning design of courses. Kasi talagang kailangan yung kombinasyon ng online and in-class activities that would best address the learning outcomes. So ito yung tatlong basic questions. And then saka pa lang papasok kung ano yung mga instructional content na ibibigay mo, 'di ba? Hindi yung magsisimula ka doon sa lesson at saka mo pa lang iisipin yung assessment. No, it's not advised that way. We start with the learning outcomes, the activities, assessment, etc. And then we now think of what instructional content can we provide so that the students will be enabled to achieve the learning outcomes. So these are the examples of online learning activities. Of course, these are just examples, no? Pwede pa kayong mag-isip, marami pa kayong pwedeng isipin. I always say that for us who are teaching online, creativity when it comes to developing learning activities, masyadong magiging tulong sa atin. We have to be more creative, we have to be more imaginative when we design learning activities, especially if these are online learning activities. So ito lang mga examples, wikis and blogs. Have students compile a course glossary together or work in groups to produce a proposal. Collaborative writing exposes students to various writing styles and approaches and provide them with more feedback in their own writing and ideas. We have to take note that when we assign our students to do these activities, itong mga learning activities, we are also training them to work as part of a team. In some cases, we are training them to be leaders, right? So ito yung mga other competencies, other 21st century competencies that hindi lang yung content ang itinuturo natin sa ating mga estudyante, but also these very important skills and attributes. So when we design these learning activities, yes, we are teaching them the content, but at the same time, there are associated skills and knowledge that we are also teaching our students. So iba yung when we design, we have to think out of the box and try to see how we can better take that opportunity wherein our students will engage in collaborative activities, no? Yung iba nga if you will read more about the holistic curriculum or approach, yung mga courses pinagko-combine. So halimbawa, I will ask the students to do a writing exercise. Then we can probably choose a topic that is related to science, related to history. So in a way, we are teaching them how to write properly, effective writing communication. But at the same time, they have to do some research for science, if that is the topic of their choice, or even history, if that is what they want to write about. So may mga ganon na pwede nating gawin, no? So again, not only the content, but also other associated skills when we develop learning activities for our courses. So another online example of online learning activity which we can ask our students to do are this. We can assign readings, video tutorials, or documentaries, require them to take an online quiz before attending a class. So itong ano na to, more or less similar to a flipped classroom kasi ito usually mga activities that we ask them to do. But and again, the purpose is to prepare the students for in-class activities. Kasi pagdating sa klase, in the in-person meeting, we will no longer do lectures, but instead there will be activities which we can ask our students to do. So itong minsan tong online quiz before attending the class will also give us some information. What exactly is the level of knowledge of our students when it comes to the lesson that we are about to discuss in the classroom. So maraming pwedeng ibigay na impormasyon sa atin at the same time that it will prepare, these activities will prepare our students for in-class activities. Engage students in online discussion. So asynchronous discussion, in a way, this will be, learning management system will be handy, will be needed, so that we can provide a platform wherein our students can discuss, can interact asynchronously, no? Katulad ng ginagawa natin doon sa in the remote instruction, ano, may mga discussion forums tayo, and then they will be interacting with each other. If I may mention at this point, 'di ba yung lagi nating sinasabi na in designing our courses, we also have to facilitate the different types of interactions which we know can really facilitate learning. So one is the learner content interaction. So yun yung we ask them to read, yung view materials, video materials, etc. Learner interaction, of course, aside from the face-to-face, in the face-to-face meetings we are asking them to do work together, collaborative work in online setting, etc. This asynchronous discussion through the learning management system is also one way of facilitating the learner-learner interaction. And of course, the learner-teacher interaction, we have that through in the design of our courses. Even if we are not talking to them, even if we are not giving lectures, by giving feedback, we are also facilitating the learner-teacher interaction, quizzes, etc. And as I mentioned already, the feedback, especially to the course requirements that they have submitted. In some cases, we can also facilitate the learner community of practice interaction through the learning activities that we can design in our courses. Okay, so again, these are examples of online learning activities you can add to the list and integrate them or include them in your respective courses. Still another example, self-assessment, peer assessment skills. So yung self-assessment, we can design online assessment tools like yung mga self-assessment na which they can take after reading, after viewing a material. Meron tayong mga ibibigay sa kanila na mga questions and that they can assess by themselves whether there are things that they haven't understood from the material and which they can probably discuss during the face-to-face meeting. Peer assessment is something that I always include in my courses, wherein I ask, and something that we will also exercise in this workshop, wherein you will be asked to evaluate the activity or the submission of a fellow learner, and the way you will evaluate the work of your fellow learner will also be indicative of your understanding of the lesson. So in my courses, for instance, I always say that the grade of your fellow learner will not depend on how you evaluated his or her work. But your grade will depend or could be used as basis, or your grade will depend on how you evaluated your fellow learner, because again, that is indicative of what you have learned from the course. So yun yung value ng peer assessment. And then of course, you get to be exposed to the works of your fellow learners, which is also for me is a learning experience. Okay? So ito na yung ating in-class learning activities, so kanina meron tayo na online. So ito naman in class na pagka magkakaroon na tayo ng mga meetings, no? So these are just examples again. Pick 1 or 2 samples of online student work to discuss in more detail in class. So kung titingnan natin, some are saying na parang mas maraming trabaho dito yung teacher, ano? Well, that is probably true, ano? Kasi ang dami mong preparasyon na gagawin. I also had experience of teaching in a residential course, and yeah, yung aking mga presentation naka-prepare na yan, o paulit-ulit ko lang ginagamit yan every time na magtuturo ako ng kurso na yon. Pero ito, every time that you will meet your students, kailangan meron kang ibang preparasyon na gagawin. So like for instance, this one. So kapag may face-to-face ano ka, you know that this is what you're going to do, but you have to look at the work of your students and try to pick 2 samples wherein you will discuss in detail. So, mas maganda kung magkaiba sila para mas magiging malalim ang discussion when it comes to the peer-to-peer, face-to-face meeting. Or have students present research findings, especially if you ask them to do online research. You can ask them to report or discuss among themselves, and then after the group discussion, ask them to present in front of the class. That is in a face-to-face meeting. Active learning techniques, quick writing responses, yung mga tatanungin natin sila, susulat sila, and then minsan board work, ganyan, or working in pairs to answer questions. So these are things that we can also consider when we design in-class learning activities. Again, make students do collaborative work. Pwede rin na halimbawa magsosolve sila ng mga case studies, ganyan, and then they will be working inside the classroom, discussing, and we teachers will just be supervising what they are doing. So how can we now integrate? So kanina, meron kang online at meron kang in-class. So dito, when we review or design our hybrid learning course, we need to ask how the online and the face-to-face components work together to address the learning outcomes. So are they supporting each other? Na re-reinforce ba halimbawa when we ask our students to do online activities, when they come to a face-to-face meeting, are we reinforcing, validating, confirming what they have learned in the online activities that we assigned to them? So yun yung kailangan nating isipin when we design the online activities and the in-class activities. Okay? So integrating, these are examples again. Work online and then meet face-to-face. Meron silang mga group projects, and then pagdating sa face-to-face, magkakaroon sila ng presentation and discussion. Interacting with content online, tapos pagdating doon, pwede silang magkaroon ng debate pagdating sa klase. Okay? Online interactions can reinforce or extend. Students provide feedback to each other, parang peer assessment, or finish a discussion that started, a discussion online that started in the class. Have students post key definitions online, and then the students can help in editing and refining. So what to do with extra class time? Kasi marami ka nang pinagawa ng online activities. So we can have assessment. We can use classroom. Kasi di ba, during the remote teaching and learning natin na ginawa during the pandemic, ang laging problema ng mga teacher ay paano ko gagawin yung assessment? How can I ensure the integrity of the assessment process and the results, di ba? Marami tayong tanong. So in this hybrid learning modality, yung mga assessment mo, you can do that during the face-to-face meeting using the classroom assessment techniques, no? Para talagang ma-validate mo at makampante ka na, tama, itong estudyante ko talaga yung natuto, estudyante ko yung sumasagot. But of course, we are still advocating for authentic assessment, which can be combined with classroom assessment techniques. More feedback walking around, answering student questions as they work through and get stuck on problems. Mas maganda nga, bigyan mo sila ng cases, and then as they discuss, you can provide more feedback and encourage them to ask more questions so that are related to the lesson or concept that you are discussing. Okay, so ito na yung learning activity natin. Before we proceed to the discussion, we will also email this learning activity to you. So, ang requirement natin, so you have a syllabus of a course that you are teaching or will teach in the coming semester. So, we go back to the questions that we need, that we say we need to ask when we are designing for a hybrid learning modality. Let us review the learning outcomes set for the course. It's already there. We evaluate the learning activities that we have already developed for the course. Nandiyan na yan eh, ginawa na natin yan noon. Which of those activities can be done face-to-face or in person, and which can be done online? Do we need to revise some activities? So, dito, kumuha lang tayo ng isang lesson, doon sa inyong course syllabus, and then lagyan natin ng online and in-person learning activities. Okay? So, yun yung learning activity natin. So, kung online lesson yan, search for at least kahit isang material lang for an online learning resource. Submit your outputs or upload in the Moodle course site, which will be emailed to you. Shai, you have to email to them the course site for Precon 1. And then you will also be assigned a fellow learner submission, which you will evaluate. So yun yung peer assessment. So for you to be certified for the completion of this training workshop, training program, you have to be present here in this webinar session. You have to complete the learning activity, and you have to assess the peer assessment of a submission of a fellow learner. In your certificate of completion of this workshop, it will be stated that it is equivalent to an 8-hour training. Okay? So, thank you very much. So, we can now proceed to our discussion. Kung may mga questions, who is our moderator, Meg?
Yes, ma'am. I think, ma'am, there is already a question in the chat, room. This is from Sir Rolando. How to change this belief? Mas natututo ang students kung nagle-lecture ang teacher. How do you change that belief daw, ma'am?
Oo. Actually, mahirap talaga kasi ano yan eh, mga changes yung ano natin eh. Siguro ang kailangan lang natin is to walk them through. Ganito yon, na-observe din namin yan. Ang tawag namin yan yung that anong tawag? Ano nga yun? Yung parang you want to have that that sense that the teacher is there with you. Okay? The teacher is there with you. During the webinar sessions that we conducted nung panahon ng pandemic from 2020, 2021, etc., no? Pag may nagre-request sa amin ng webinar, at tapos makikita namin pare-pareho lang yung mga topics na nire-request sa amin, ang sasabihin namin, meron na po kaming recorded video. Meron na kami recorded video tungkol dyan, exactly the topic that you are requesting. So ibibigay na lang namin yung link dun sa video, no? Dun sa nasa network natin. Pero sabi nila, still they want a live lecturer or resource person to talk about, probably to also answer the questions, etc., no? So pag minsan inaano namin, pero biniblend din namin. Okay, biniblend din namin. So, ang ginagawa namin minsan, which you can also do in your courses, naka-record. Naka-record yung mga lectures, pero you are there to respond to questions. So, start slowly and in small components of your courses, until such time that your students will become used to it, to that modality, and they will appreciate the flexibility that that kind of system provides to them. Ganon. So yun, combination, start slowly, small components of your course para lang masanay sila. Ganon. So, the combination of different modalities can help a lot. Can help a lot. Siguro ngayon, lalo ngayon na ibang henerasyon na yung mga tinuturuan natin eh. Ibang generation na, and probably 10 years from now, 5 years, siguro nga hindi nga 10 years, 5 years from now, they will be more, our students will be different from what we have now. They are more used to interacting with their gadgets and really searching for materials online. And probably many of them would not want to waste their time. They wouldn't want to devote so long hours just listening to a live lecture, but they would probably prefer a more active and participative sessions in the classroom. So yon, combination, and start with smaller segments of your lesson or courses. That probably is a recommendation, which I also read from many researches. Yes.
Okay. Ma'am, another question po. It seems that during the pandemic, UP Open University was one of the universities who was in the business as usual mode. May I know what were the challenges in terms of teaching and learning that you still encountered, if there were any?
Yes, actually,
Anonymously.
sino yung nagtanong? Anonymous ba?
Yes,
Oo.
ma'am, he doesn't want to be po.
Oo.
Siya.
Ganito, oo. Akala namin din na na we will be business as usual. Kasi sabi namin, no changes because we are fully online. Yun yung namin. But first, of course, we became busy as well, assisting other HEIs. But for our own teaching and learning, of course, our people were also affected, and we have to consider that our students were affected, and we have to consider that. And because of those things, we cannot say that this is business as usual. So halimbawa, lockdown, hindi makalabas yung mga estudyante, no? Our students, some of them are accessing the internet in their offices. Some are accessing the internet sa mga internet cafe. 'Di ba? Hindi sila makalabas. Kasi nga lockdown. So that also affected the way they are interacting with their classmates, submitting course requirements. So nagkaroon pa rin ng adjustment when it comes to the calendar. Nagkaroon ng adjustment. And then many of our students, especially in the health-related programs, they are frontliners, and we have to give them some considerations when it comes to the completion of their course requirements. So naapektuhan. Ang nga nila doon, I think I saw one yung parang graphic sa sa Facebook, all the other HEIs were really parang naghahabol, talagang kailangan mag-shift to online mode of instruction. Yun daw mga taga-UPOU, mga nagkakapi na lang kasi we're so used to it. But yes, we were affected, and we had to make adjustments in the school calendar, in the way extending deadlines for our students, and of course we also implemented academic policies that were formulated by the whole UP system. So affected po ang UPOU.
Yes, ma'am. Another question po from the chat room from Sir Patrick De Leon. Is it okay if the course learning outcomes, example, course outcomes of microeconomics, will only hit or accomplish some of the program learning outcomes, example, PLOs of business economics program?
Kasi hindi naman, kaya 'di ba pagka tayo ay gumagawa ng mga curricular proposal, nilalagay natin ano yung mga courses na makakatulong that will help achieve the learning outcomes noong program. Ganon. I don't think it is really possible that for one course to help to satisfy all the program learning outcomes. Kaya nga maraming kurso 'di ba? Because all these courses will contribute to the achievement of the program learning outcomes. Probably baka nga yung iba will just provide the foundation. So hindi direct Hindi direct ang contribution, but it will provide the foundation for the other courses that will directly help the students achieve the learning outcomes. So, but it is important for us to know, in what way our courses can contribute to the program learning outcomes. At yun naman ay nagawa na when during the design of the curriculum. No, nung dinesign yung curriculum, dapat nakaano na yon, nakaplasta na yan diyan. Kaya nga sinasabi natin, ang learning outcomes andyan na. Babalikan na lang natin at i-review natin yung mga learning activities if they are really aligned with the learning outcomes. So ako ganun yung pagtingin ko doon. But it is important for us to know and be mindful of how our courses can really contribute to the program learning outcomes. Ganun po.
Ma'am, there's another one. It's more of a comment po. As teachers po, especially if you're teaching content courses like mathematics, napaka-importante po ng face-to-face discussion para mas madali pong ma-explain ang lesson. Yes, one comment po yun. And
Yeah,
yes,
actually, kailangan nating pag-isipan paano, ano ba yung mga activities natin online at ano yung mga activities natin ng in-person. Probably hindi ka magle-lecture ng buong buo, no? Kapag ka nag-face-to-face ka, siguro pwede ka magsimula na o sige, panoorin nyo to, basahin nyo to, etc. Pagdating mo sa klase, magagawa ka ng mga learning activities, not full lecture, not full lecture, but learning activities that would provide you with the opportunity to further explain the concepts. Hindi mo ile-lecture ulit kasi yung lecture pwedeng gawin na yan ng manood ng video, etc. If I may cite another example, siguro, yes, mathematics or trigonometry or geometry yata yung ano na yon. Then I heard one high school student saying na hirap na hirap ako intindihin tong topic na to si Khan Academy pala merong very good material about it. So mas nakinig siya kay Khan Academy in preparation pagka siya ay pumapasok sa klase kung ito yung lesson niya. So mas madali niyang naiintindihan yung lecture ng kanyang teacher kasi napakinggan na niya kay Khan sa Khan Academy. So ganon, yes, there are concepts which can be better explained in a face-to-face, but think of how the activities in the face-to-face setting would be such that you will just validate or provide an affirmation or explain further what you have assigned during the online activity. Ganon.
all right. Ma'am, any other questions po? You can turn on your mics and turn on
Sino
your videos.
sino gusto magtanong ng
Please, let's
live?
take advantage of this this time kasi
Oh.
sobrang busy si ma'am. Let's take advantage of this time po of this workshop. If you have any questions.
O kaya may additional input.
Yes, if you would
Oo.
want to cite examples from your personal
Oo.
experience or from your class.
Yung pagtuturo ninyo, ganyan. Kasi ako ang aking experience ng in-person ay kailan pa yon, late 90s, and then kapag meron tayong once a month. Remember, the generation 1 ng distance education, especially as implemented by UPOU, ay mayroong once a month tutorial session. But we have to note that even those tutorial sessions, we have to design them in such a way that we will not be doing lectures for the 3 hours that we will be with our students. May naka-raise ang kamay,
Yes po,
Martin.
si Sir Martin, yes, our faculty po.
Hi po, ma'am. Thank you very much for the lecture. Very informative
Mag-open
po
ka naman
siya.
ng camera mo.
Ay, mamaya na lang, ma'am. So,
sige,
di ako prepared.
Hindi ka
So,
prepared.
my
Sige.
question is, meron na po kasi yung mga new technologies right now, like augmented reality, the use of social media and the metaverse. How are we supposed to use those technology dito sa ating bagong learning environment? At saka, how are we supposed to convince yung mga politicians and yung mga other administrative people na that online learning is also useful in different ways, and it can also unburden some of the administrative tasks na yung natin right now. So, thank you very much po.
Okay, unahin natin yung tanong mo doon sa immersive technologies, ano, yung mga mixed realities, virtual reality. Yes, yes, definitely. If we really want to give our students a close to real life experience when they are learning concepts, especially sa field ng medicine, tourism, etc. Talagang very useful, history even. Very useful itong mga immersive technologies natin. Of course, UPOU is in the in the planning. Hindi lang planning eh. We are hoping to have more of it in the near future. So we will do that. Pero siguro ang sasabihin ko lang, and this is something that we've been saying all along, especially at the time when UPOU started doing online, it's pedagogy over technology. Okay? When we choose the technology that we will use in our teaching and learning, we have to make sure, one, is they will really facilitate the achievement of the learning outcomes. Kasi kung gusto lang natin na, gusto kong gumamit nito ganyan, pero it's not even contributing to the achievement of the learning outcomes, baliwala ang paggamit mo ng technology. Second, make sure that our students have access to the technology that we want to use in our courses. Hindi enough na ang teacher ay may access, kasi kung teacher lang ang may access at walang access ang iyong estudyante, baliwala ang paggamit mo ng technology. So may laging may mga ganon, laging meron tayo mga considerations in choosing the technology that we will use in our courses. So in fact, during the early years of UPOU, I mean, yung nung una-una tayong mag-online, marami sa ating mga estudyante, mga teachers natin, especially mga teachers, walang access sa internet. Marami sa kanila kailangang maglakad ng 1-2 oras para lang makarating sa isang pinakamalapit na internet cafe. So anong ginawa natin? We combined technologies. All the materials are provided in printed modules. Naka-record kung kailangan na may mga videos, etc. At kung may mga learning activities online, kasi tutorials are online, then they have to be reminded through text messages. Uso pa nung araw yung anong nga tawag doon, yung libreng pagka nagsisend ka ng mass message sa sa mga through text yun through text message, pero online na yung gamit mo, papadala mo dun sa mga mobile phones ng mga estudyante. So combination of technology to make sure na mai-inform at walang mamamarginalize sa yung mga estudyante. Ganon. So yung combination of technologies, not immersive technology, of course they are good. Pero ano ang gamit natin sa kanya at magagamit ba siya ng mga estudyante natin? But we are into that, We're moving towards that direction as well.
Okay, ma'am. I think we have enough time for 1 or 2 more questions. There's another one po in the chat room. How do you ensure equity in delivering hybrid classes such that it will not be alienating for learners with challenged needs in technological resource and support?
Yeah, yun pa rin. Ang ko is when you design your courses using technology, kasi very important yung technology, pag-identify natin ng technology, make sure that our students will have access. And when we talk of access, it's not just the physical access, no? So they have the physical access to the technology, they can afford the technology, diba? And they have the skills. So yung technology, yung access sa technology, hindi ni-articulate na natin yan to include the cost and the skills that are needed to use a particular technology. So yun yung isa. And then if there are substitutes, kung pwede namang hindi lahat ay online, 'di ba? Di gawin natin yung substitute na yon, no? Para walang ma-alienate, walang ma-marginalize na mga estudyante. And what is good now is that pangalan nito, halimbawa yung Moodle may offline version. So pwede mong gamitin yung offline version, and then the moment na ikaw ay magkaroon ng access sa internet, punta ka sa isang internet cafe or something na may access sa internet, then that's the time na pwede mong i-upload lahat or mag-download ka, etc. So consider all those things. Ang ibig sabihin lang nun, kailangan well-planned yung courses mo. Well-planned, such that hindi yung magbibigay ka ng resource ngayon, tapos bukas bigla ka magbibigay ng exam. Hindi ganon. I mean, it has to be well planned. At UPOU, what we do is that at the start of the semester, nakaplano na yung kurso, nakaplano yung activities, nakaplano lahat ng submissions, even the schedule of exams, nakaplano na sa simula pa lang ng semestre. Para yung ating mga estudyante, alam nila kailan ba ako magsasabit ng assignment, kailan ba ako mag-i-exam, etc., etc. So, hindi arbitrary, kundi well-planned. That's the difference between remote teaching and learning and the distance education mode of instruction, especially distance e-learning. So may another one here?
Yes po. From Sir Ronnie. Go ahead, Sir Ronnie.
Hi, good afternoon everyone po.
Yes, sir. Opo. Ay, bakit nawala kayo? Nawala si sir.
Yeah, we cannot hear you po, sir.
I cannot hear you po. Hindi ka naman nakaano. Kanina narinig ka namin, pero ngayon hindi ka na po namin marinig. Take 2. Ay, wala. Ay, ayan. Sige pa, ulitin natin. Wala pa rin. Si Sir ay taga New Era University. Ayan.
Opo. Apologies, sir. We still cannot hear you. Can you type in your question, sir, in the chat room, if ever?
Ngayon siya ay nakamute kayo, sir, ngayon.
Opo.
Oo.
Another comment, ma'am, from Sir Claude, is one of the challenges of our system now is the stigma that students are not that competent enough because they are products of online classes. I think the education system should also make efforts on this.
Yeah. Actually, ang lagi kong sinasabi niyan, let us change the narrative. Iba na yung mundo ngayon, iba na yung dynamics ngayon. Yung stigma na yan, century old na yung yung stigma na yan na kapag ikaw ay product ng online class, ako nga I can say that probably we are learning better through the quality materials that are now available online, no? Kasi ang yung mga online, if ganito yon ha, pero syempre may condition yon. If we were able to design our courses in such a way that we were able to use quality learning materials that are available in the internet, open educational resources from the experts. We can have our students interact directly with the experts. Hindi lang tayo, minsan kung tayo lang ang source ng information, syempre depende yan sa framing natin, kung paano natin ituturo yung isang particular So we need to explain more, and you are right. We have to exert more efforts. Yung nangyari during the time of the pandemic, dalawa yung posibleng naging resulta. One is convincing those who were not yet convinced that yes, we can be at par. Online learning can be at par with the residential instruction. That's one. And the other is comparing the remote teaching and learning with distance e-learning, which will probably affirm or validate yung stigma na to or yung perception na to na ay hindi nga magaling yung online learning. Basing on what they have experienced doing the remote teaching and learning. Kaya ang lagi naming sinasabi, magkaiba po ang ginawa ninyo na remote teaching and learning during the time of the pandemic and the distance e-learning that open universities are doing. So ulit-ulit po naming ipinapaliwanag yan. And the major difference, big difference, is the time to prepare. And all the infrastructure, all the support system are there when you are doing distance e-learning. Your library, your support system, and your course materials are designed for that kind of teaching and learning. Hindi puro synchronous session ang gagawin. 'Di ba? And we are hoping that from the remote experience, remote teaching and learning experience, pwedeng unti-unti maipasok natin doon so that we can integrate the quality assurance framework for distance e-learning. Yun yung inaano natin ngayon. That's what we are hoping to do now. That we are moving towards, sabi natin, the post-COVID-19 pandemic era of higher education in the Philippines. Ganun po.
Okay. I think that's
Pasok ulit si Sir,
yes.
yeah.
We can
Sir,
give Sir
can you
Ronnie
again
another
try?
chance. Yes.
I think I have already my
Pero nag-e-echo, sir. You have to
close my
gadget.
other.
Baka po dalawa yung gadget nyo na nakabukas.
Yes, ma'am. I already
Yan.
leave the other gadget.
And sir, please go ahead, sir.
Thank you for this opportunity that you gave us to enrich our skills. I just want to share our experience here at New Era University since this final term, we are required by our college, specifically the College of Arts and Sciences. We are those who are handling major courses will have a 50% in-person class. But we are in advance with that of the memo of the CHED.
Of CHED,
We are training ourselves already. And since we have an established learning management system, our very own Nuble, which is a Moodle platform.
Sir, even before the pandemic, you were doing online learning.
Yes, ma'am. We prepared ourselves for the pandemic. I think that's one of the advantages that we have then.
Yeah.
Since we have an established learning management system, which uses Moodle platform, in which we named it Nuble, which is New Era University Virtual Learning Environment. And as far as our courses are concerned, the contents are well established already. Activities are there. Students knows already how to take their to submit their assignments, when to take their exam, when it will be submitted. So now, since we are required to have a 50% face-to-face, so after our synchronous classes during the midterm term, we discussed theories. So now what we are doing in the classroom is, since this is educational psychology that we are teaching, they are just having their demonstration teaching, actual demonstration teaching. It's very nakakamiss
so
kasi
wala na sila sa classroom, di ba?
Yung 50% namin, ma'am, sa classroom po. Doon sila nagde-demonstration
doon sila
talaga.
nagde-demo.
Opo, demonstration teaching na po yung ginagawa nila. Kasi kapag although we tested it during the online, limited po yung galaw, wala. Masaya kasi kapag sa classroom, siyempre may gagalaw yung estudyante, 'di ba? Sasayaw sila, or 'di ba yung mga motivation ng mga demonstrators.
Yes.
It's really nakakamiss talaga. And I think that's what we want to let our students experience during face-to-face.
Yung what you have shared just emphasize the fact or the need for us to really design the activities for the in-person classes or meetings. Diba?
Yes, ma'am.
Oo. So sabi mo nga, yung mga estudyante, nagagawa nila ganito, ganyan. So they will not just sit there and listen to you lecturing.
I know I'm not lecturing anymore, ma'am, kasi
Exactly,
we've done
exactly,
it during
exactly.
the synchronous in our sa Nuble natin nandun na yung materials, they just read it and then do the activities, and then the instruction is given, and then doon sa classroom I just observe and comments and recommend what to
hayaan mo na silang gumawa ng mga activities nila.
Yes, ma'am. That's what we are doing po right now, and it's really a good learning experience on both sides, our students and me myself as teacher.
Yes, that's true. Yes, thank you very much, sir, for sharing. Yeah, I noted that the new era is has been doing, oo, na-integrate na sa teaching and learning yung yung pag online for some components of the course. So tama kayo, you're well prepared. You're well prepared. And I also observed the same thing for other universities who started online component in their courses even before the pandemic. So mahirap pa rin, pero hindi kasing hirap na maghahanap ka pa ng LMS, hindi naging ganun kahirap. Ganon. Okay, so Ma'am Meg.
Okay, many thanks po, Ma'am Mel, for the presentation. And we hope that through this pre-conference workshop, UPOE have introduced concepts and constructs in integrating technology to the face-to-face classroom teaching and learning with the flexibility, agility, and sustainability in mind. So now I would like to read the certificate of appreciation to our webinar speaker this
Meron ako.
afternoon. Yes, ma'am. There is po. The certificate of appreciation is presented to Melinda de la Peña Bandalaria for serving as a speaker in the pre-conference workshop on designing for flexibility, agility, and sustainability, integrating technology to the face-to-face classroom, teaching and learning at the 7th National Conference on Open and Distance E-Learning, or NPODEL, with the theme Reimagining Education Futures, held virtually on the 22nd of November 2022. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. So eto, namarkahan na ni Shaira kung sino ang present at sinong absent sa kanyang listahan. So ipapadala po sa inyo ang kopya. I think Shai, you will be sending the copy of the presentation, tama ba? Shai?
No, ma'am. The recording of the presentation will be uploaded on our course site.
Okay, yon. Yeah, pero you need to send the instruction on how where to access the course site, right?
Yes po. Okay
Ayun.
na, ma'am. Some of them, ma'am, I think 20 of them are already enrolled.
Okay, that's good. Oo. Tapos you assign one submission for them to evaluate. And again, those who are here, you will also be given instructions on how to download your certificate once you have completed all our activities. Okay? So with that, maraming salamat.
Ma'am, photo lang
Yes.
po. Turn on
Photo
lang po yung
lang daw.
camera quickly. So we'll have a quick photo. And then, thank you very much po for attending.
Yeah, thank you very much. So paki-open daw po ng mga camera so we can have our photo session. Hopefully sa mga susunod na conference ng OU, it will be in person yung mga workshops natin, and there will be more we can have more interaction. Oo.
All right. Lex, paano na lang? Lex, thank you.
Okay, ready po tayo. Okay. Smile lang po.
Smile.
1, 2, 3, smile. One more. Slide 2, 1, 2, 3.
Slide 2.
Smile. Okay, thank you po.
Thank you very much po for
Yung
attending.
picture, i-upload mo rin siya para they can download their picture as part of this pre-con workshop. Okay, so for some of you, I will also be seeing you in pre-conference workshop number 2,
Yes,
which will be at 3 o'clock. Tama ba?